Hey guys, what's up? So, continuing on with the schedule that I've imposed on myself, I'm now going to go into the whatever I feel like. Though before I do that, I have to apologize for not having a video out last week, which I should have because that's the schedule that I set up for myself. Last week was a little bit of a... It was a little screwed up between being bamboozled with work and other stuff happening and also me not feeling very well. I wasn't able to get a video out. Hell, I wasn't even able to get a video out for the Breakfast Club, and that screwed things over with that too. So, but I recovered enough so that I could put out a video for this week. But I gotta kind of make up for the video that I didn't put out last week. And if you guys remember, the schedule I set up for myself is the first week of the month, martial arts based. Second week, my more old school, philosophical, political, whatever type videos. Third one, nerdy stuff. Fourth one, whatever the hell I feel like, right? Well, since I skipped out on the nerdy one, and since this fourth one is whatever the hell I feel like, I figured that now would be a good time for me to relate an old story that I've been wanting to put on the channel for a bit, but I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because I didn't know when was the best time to tell it. It coincides with the nerdy stuff, and it kind of coincides with doing whatever I want as well. I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do for the my first nerdy style video anyway. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to go into my love of Magic the Gathering, or if I wanted to go into the mini disc stuff that I still engage in, which I should do a video on that anyway. The new video games I like playing, or rather the old ones, like I'm really into Rebel Galaxy these days. And recently a fan who was nice enough to get me Street Fighter V, and I've been playing both of those a lot. But then, after I missed last week, I realized there is something I can do, and it's the story. Now, the reason why I feel like I can do this story is because it's going to have to be told in 2 parts, because it's kind of long. But hopefully it'll be entertaining enough for you guys, even if you don't engage in what I'm about to talk about. And what I'm about to talk about is role-playing games, and in particular my adventures with one particular role-playing game. I've played several. You can't really tell because the camera's not close enough to the shelf there, but I've got quite a few books. So there's mostly only one system in there, but I got a couple of others. But the systems I've played over the years, I've played D&D, 3.5 being my favorite actually, and which actually might as well scratch that because Pathfinder is my favorite now, because Pathfinder is essentially D&D 3.75. I've played that. I've played GURPS, which is now currently my overall favorite system to play. I've played a little bit of Shadowrun. I've played a little bit of Cyberpunk 2020, which, even though I'll admit that Shadowrun is the better polished engine, I kind of like the setting of Cyberpunk 2020 a bit more. And yes, I am excited for the new game coming out. I think there's one other system that... Oh yes, and go ahead and laugh at me. Me and my friends did play the Serenity role-playing game for a little bit. The engine's got problems, but if you tweak it, it's okay-ish, I guess. We played it more for the setting than anything else. And, yeah. Those are the type of games I like to play. But my favorite... The system that I get a bit of a guilty pleasure in, the system that I love the setting, but man does it have problems, is Rifts. In Palladium books in general, Palladium games in general, I really like those games. The Rifts games in particular, because I really like that. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of Rifts. I've heard it once said that Rifts is one of those RPG systems that anyone who's played role-playing games, they've played them. I mean, no, sorry, messed it up. They've heard of Rifts, but they've never played it. Like I've heard the joke that it's the one system that everyone's heard of, but no one's played. Well, I'm one of those guys that have played it, and so it's one of those games that you just kind of have to get a liking for, and it's got a very storied and crazy history. Palladium Books in general, Palladium Books being the company that put out these games. Palladium Books put out a lot of different games. They put out TMNT, which by the way was another game actually TMNT might have been the very first role-playing game system I ever played. Don't laugh at me. I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, the old black and white comics. That's what I really got into. The cartoon, not so much, but I don't need to get into that. But I liked that system, and then that got me into playing Robotech, which then ultimately we went into Rifts, and Rifts is what we stayed with, me and my friends in high school. And it's got a really interesting premise. I don't want to go through the whole history of Rifts because that's going to make this video even longer than it's going to be, and this is going to be a while, which is why I decided to chop this into 2 parts. But to make a long story short, it's supposed to take place in the future, but in a post-apocalyptic future, of course, right? Otherwise, you know, what's the fun of not making it post-apocalyptic, right? But the thing is, the reason why the game is called Rifts is because, like, way in the future, after mankind reached a new golden age where they were no longer killing each other for stupid reasons, I guess, you know, we got technology and cybernetics and things like that, you know, mechs and cool ships. These dimensional rifts just opened up, and all sorts of crazy stuff started coming out from different dimensions and worlds. You had aliens, monsters, fantasy creatures, demons from hell, vampires, you name it. Stuff was just coming out the woodwork, and it devastated the planet. Like by the time you get to the setting of Rifts, pretty much everything's gone to hell. You have entire countries pretty much wiped out or overrun by one form of catastrophe or another. You know, could be demons, could be aliens, could be old otherworld, you know, beings that were waiting for their time to take over, you know, and it's like just different. It's just chaos, and it lends itself to a really harsh but rather fun setting where just about anything goes, because you got this mix of magic and swords, like a sword and sorcery hack and slash, and cybernetic stuff. You got guys running around in mechs shooting at freaking sorcerers. It's nuts, but if you know how to GM it right, it can be freaking fantastic. It pretty much just runs again, like whatever you want to throw in there, you can, with the, you know, Deus Ex Machina of, well, a rift opened up and this came through. I know, kind of weak, but you can make it work. The problem with Rifts isn't the setting, because the setting is rather awesome, especially if you make most of the stories take place in North America. I mean, you can make it take place in anywhere on the planet, but North America in particular is really interesting, and that seems to be the core of the main Rift story, because in the middle of the U.S., you have this, let's just call them cyber Nazis. They call themselves a coalition. They've pretty much taken over that region, and they call themselves humanity's last bastion of hope. Like they're fighting against all the otherworldly beings and demons and monsters and what have you. And because of their rather harsh stance, like they're like, you know, our backs up against the wall, we're going up against magic and powerful creatures, and humanity doesn't stand a chance unless we take a hard militaristic stance. So they're basically technology based, and you know, they're fighting back with armor, like, you know, mech armor suits, and like just, you know, tanks and robots and laser guns and things like that to kind of fend off all the other stuff. But they have like a very pro-human stance, pure humanity. You can see where this is going. Anything that's not human is considered an abomination by them. They will wipe it out immediately or treat them like second-class citizens or worse. They pretty much are just like cyber Nazis in the sense that, I mean, they have a very fascist state. The ruler of the empire, and it is the coalition empire, is pretty much evil. He runs it like a strict dictatorship. There's basic freedoms don't exactly exist. They've even gone so far as to limit education. Like, it's against the law to read in some areas of the coalition. Like, in fact, there's a character class in Rifts called a rogue scholar. And the reason, and you're a rogue scholar because you know shit. Like, you actually know about the past. You can read books. You can pass on knowledge. And the coalition doesn't want you passing on too much knowledge because they don't want their citizenry to be awake enough to go up against the government. So if you're playing a rogue scholar, you're constantly on the run. So needless to say, I played a rogue scholar a lot. I'm getting off topic. It's just, Rifts is one of those topics that I can rant about or have fun talking about for hours. One of the things that I can definitely rant about is the fact that it is not a good... That is one broken engine. Anyone who's played any Palladium books, or especially any Rifts books, will tell you that it is not a perfect system, and this game engine has needed to be updated since the late 80s. We're now in 2018, and that game engine still, to my knowledge, has not been properly updated yet. And it desperately needed to be updated since the 90s. Needless to say, anybody still playing Rifts today pretty much house rules the shit out of it. You have to. between the power creep that went on with every new installment and just the way mega damage works, and I don't want to get into that. It's going to make this video even longer. Those of you who play Rifts know exactly what I'm fucking talking about, though. It's just a broken system. In fact, I've known people who, and even I myself, it's like we just throw out the game system and just use something else. The game world itself we like to use, and though I kind of house rule some of the stuff that the events that happen as well, because some of the storytelling's stupid. But the game engine, like hell, a lot of people just simply throw they just use GURPS. They just take GURPS, which is actually a really good system to learn, to be honest. It's probably one of the best role-playing game systems, not the best role-playing systems around. But yeah, you can just basically take GURPS and then take the universe of Rifts and just use that, and it works just fine. In fact, it works a hell of a lot better than the original engine. I told you all that, so I can now set the stage. This is the story of the McGregorville Campaign. One of the craziest RPG campaigns I have ever played through. I have a fondness for it. I look back on it with nostalgia, but it is also some of the most harrowing role-playing gaming I have ever done. I'm surprised my character lasted as long as he did. I'm going to mention some people. The person playing with me, a fellow player, and our GM. And I'll change names to protect the guilty. Our GM, I will call him Dan. And there's probably somebody right now chuckling. No, I'm not talking about you, because obviously you did not play Rifts as far as I know. But I'll call him Dan. And my friend Dan, he's a cool dude. He's, you know, very friendly, very smart. I've known him since high school. He's a fellow martial artist. He's traveled around the world. He's currently abroad right now, in fact. And he's like a very sweet and very idealistic individual, and he's also one of the most sadistic GMs I have ever played with. I don't know what it is about him getting a lot of sadistic glee from seeing the carnage that he forces his players to go through, but he always just has that smile as he puts us through hell. And McGregorville was no exception. This was probably his masterpiece of pain. It didn't start out significant, at least as far as I know. It started out sort of mundane and even a little bit cliched and kind of stolen. Like, I could tell right away what his influences were, and those of you savvy enough will get the influences right away. But it just spiraled out of control from the beginning on. I'm reciting this a lot from memory, and there's some details that I've forgotten, but for the most part I know the gist of it. So let me go through the first half of the campaign, and I'll cut the video short, and then the second video will be the second half of the campaign, which just gets weirder. And I think the second half really shows just how sadistic this guy was. So it was me, and I'll say my friend worked me, Paul. Just call him Paul. And Dan told us, okay, I want to set up another Rift settings. This was the first time we played Rift. He said, I got a whole new campaign set up. I got a whole idea of how I want to do this. But unlike before, where you guys normally get to pick your character classes, or, you know, in Rifts and Palladium books, your occupation, or your OCC. He's like, instead of you picking it like normally, I want you guys to start out as Coalition Grunts. You'll get the change later if you make it past the first part. Of course, me and Paul looking at each other, if, oh God. He's like, look, I have something in mind. I know you're going to feel like you're being railroaded, but I have a setting in mind, and I just want to start from here, and then we'll develop as we go. Don't worry too much about your equipment. Don't worry. You're starting out as a grunt, but it doesn't mean you need to stay that way. We're like, okay, fine, whatever. So we started out as kind of like platoon leaders. Like, even though we were called Coalition Grunts, we were actually not just a regular Coalition Grunt. We were more like squad leaders in Coalition Special Forces. And we were sent to investigate this town on the outskirts of the Coalition Empire called McGregorville, completely made up by Dan. And the thing was, the Coalition had apparently heard of some disturbances, some skirmishes happening in the outlying town. They asked for help. So they had sent another dude down there, whose name was Kurtz. Yeah, some of you guys are probably already seeing where this is going. But this dude, Kurtz, General Kurtz, I think, was it General Kurtz or was it Colonel Kurtz? I don't remember. But Kurtz, I do remember was his name. He went down there with a contingent of soldiers and cyborgs, set up a base down there with some coalition help. They had set up a base, and it was supposed to be like, you know, it was near the town. And after a few weeks, I think it was actually a few months of correspondence, dead silence. Nothing. No communication, just black. And they sent a few scouts down there to try to figure out what the hell happened. They never came back. So now they're sending us and several platoons down there to McGregorville to figure out what the fuck's going on. Is the town overrun? What happened to Kurtz? Why the radio silence? So we all get sent down there. And from the very beginning of the campaign, things go wrong. We're all in troop transports, and we're going through a road near a forest that's supposed to be like kind of blanketing McGregorville. Like McGregorville is sort of hidden by the forest a little bit. And all of a sudden we're attacked. By what? We're not sure, but it's like airborne attacks. The convoys in front of us, like the troop transports in front of us, suddenly get blown up. Like, it looked like they were hit by rockets. My character and Paul's character is just start yelling at our men, come on, get out, go, 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 figure out, just spread out, you know, whatever. And we were just getting hit from everywhere. Like, we were getting shot at from the trees, you know, seemed to be airborne. Like, we were just getting just bamboozled, completely bushwhacked by some ambush. So we're scrambling to try to get our squads together and, you know, just try to fight our way through and figure out where we're getting attacked from. And Paul suggested, you know what, we need to rush over to McGregorville because we're close by to there, and from there we can set up shop or figure out what the hell's going on. Are we getting attacked by, is it McGregorville itself? Is it overrun? We need to at least establish what the hell's going on. So we issue orders to different squads. We take our own squads and we fight our way through the forest. We made our way to McGregorville, but with only a few of our men left. A lot of our men just got cut down by the time we made it to the town. And we get to the town to find out that it's been pretty much besieged. Like, they were just barely able to fight back what they said was constant cyborg skeleton soldiers. And if you play Rifts, you know this thing exists. They got like these weird... The Coalition has a kind of whole skeleton boy motif. Like, in fact, the nickname for Coalition troops are the Dead Boys, because your whole cybernetic armor has like a skull motif for the helmet, and you've got like ribs like skeletons. You know, the whole motif of you're already dead, so fight on, like your life doesn't matter, you know, that usual shit. So, and they got like, you know, these robot android things that look just like robot skeletons with guns and shit. And apparently Kurtz had a bunch of them, and now for some strange reason they're attacking the town. Most of our troop transports got wiped out. Many of our men got wiped out. They're just gone. The only people left are just a few squads that were directly under mine and Paul's command. So we make it into the town, and they tell us that pretty much Kurtz had gone crazy after the first few couple of months he was there. For some strange reason, he started declaring that the town was his, that, you know, everything's now under his jurisdiction, and they have to answer to him. Of course, they're like, no, we're under the Coalition, so he's been trying to attack them ever since. They've been barely able to hold on, but they know they can't hold out much longer. So we're like, well, we need to try to figure out a way to get help. He says, well, that's the problem. He's been jamming communications from his base nearby, and anybody who tries to leave gets killed. In fact, you guys were lucky to make it through. You probably were crossing, you know, his border patrols, and you got ambushed. You were lucky that you made it through. He says, well, we need to find a way to get out, but we can't communicate with home base to let them know what the hell's going on because of whatever jamming he's doing at his freaking, you know, headquarters. So we're like, all right, we need to find a way to get out again, but it's going to be kind of hard. It was hard getting in, and we lost over, like, I think half the troops that came through. It was like, nah, we need to find a way to get the hell out. We might get even more fucked over, so we need to try to figure out some way to sneak out. While we're trying to come up with a plan, that's when one of the townspeople freaks out because he sees another, you know, group, another army coming toward the town to, you know, smother it and wipe it out. So we try to set up our defenses. The town militia tries to set up their defenses. Long story short, they fail. Despite our best efforts, they're able to break through the last of, you know, the barricades and walls and stuff. So we're trying to gather everybody in the town to the center of the town to try to, you know, hold off there. There's like this one big building that's supposed to be pretty well fortified. And in the meantime, we had sent some of our, I think it was, we sent like 4 or 5 of our guys out into the forest to see if maybe they can find any of the if any of the transports are still alive, or if they've all been destroyed. If there's any left, because that was our best way of trying to escape. Through luck and through several rolls of the dice, they were able to get the transport back, and we were hoping that the transport would be able to make it to the town in time so we can evacuate as many civilians as we could, because the last stand was going to be just that, a last stand, and we didn't want any of the civvies to die. Long story short, it was a crazy. It was just crazy stuff. Like, it's like this constant keep fighting. That like you ever see like in movies or you reading stories, like you keep fighting the troops and you keep getting pushed back, until finally you're like hemmed in on all sides, and you got this one last damn building. Like, we got like dead civvies and all everywhere. The few people left are still fighting. The people who can't fight are crying, and we're all trying to get them in the building. And then now we're going up floor by floor by floor, because of course they're all crashing in. We're like, get upstairs, get upstairs. Busted up troop transport finally comes in. Tries to land on a roof, and then 2 aerial units happen to come in. 2 air mech aerial units are trying to come in to bomb the shit out of the top of the roof. The dice, for some reason, were on our side. We were able to fight them off and get most of the people that were still alive onto those transports, and then stick the hell off. The town was pretty much overrun. There was no saving the town. We were able to save the people in it, well, as many as we could. But yeah, McGregorville was just wiped out. I'm just going through this. This is a freaking disaster already. I've never played a game this hardcore. Like, and normally we're able to come up with some plan to be able to, keep these guys back, but we're dealing with overwhelming odds here. There was like very little that we could do. It was insane. We were able to get to the troop transport was pretty banged up. It wasn't gonna go far, so we were able to fly into a hilly area somewhere with a cave, and we landed there and got everybody to hide out in the cave. And we're like, okay, now what? We're still not outside the range of their jamming signal. We need to get these people out of here, but we need to radio for help. What are we going to do? And here comes stupid scenario number 1. We were coming up with different plans. My plan was, we'll leave some squad guys behind in the cave to help keep the people guarded. Apparently this place is supposed to be fairly well hidden, and we'll try to keep them alive long enough so that the other squad guys who weren't left behind will try to bust through the barricade, sneak past commando style, and rush back to, civilization or whatever, so we can radio for help and get an army down here. That was my plan. We gotta sneak our way through. I mean, we're special forces. This is what we're good at. Send some of our special forces guys to sneak past the line, get help, come back. But Paul and some of the civvies under the control of our sadistic GM wanted to fight back. We lost good men, women, and children down there. We want revenge. Courage has been effing with us for so long. And Paul was like, yeah, you can fight back. Come on. Getting the whole crowd all riled up, torches and pitchforks sort of thing. And you do realize we're up against a hardcore crack military unit from our own ranks, who's now gone rogue. He's gone crazy. He's got way more guns than we do. He's in a fortified freaking base, and you're trying to send civvies after him? You really think this is a good idea? I tried to be the voice of reason, but the dice were not on my side, and I was unable to convince the people that this was not a good idea. All I was able to do was to convince them that we should not take every single last able-bodied man down there, that some should stay behind in the freaking cave. So now they're all gung-ho to fight against a technologically superior enemy, led by someone who's gone crazy. I then hatched another plan. I'm like, okay, look, you guys know where his base is, and you say his base is at the outskirts of the woods. Don't engage in open warfare. Just do guerrilla tactics, fire from the trees or whatever. My plan was, these guys should be a diversion. They start doing these, just attack the base, make enough noise to get the attention on them, and they retreat back into the woods, getting as many of the forces from inside the base out to go after them. Meanwhile, me, Paul, and the very few of our commandos left would be sneaking around to, like, you know, a side entrance or a back way or some way into the base as undetected as possible. Get inside, take out Kurtz, or if we can't take him out, at the very least knock out the signal and send word back to headquarters about what was going on. I was able to convince them that this would be a good plan. What I wasn't able to do was to get them to stick to the plan. So, we start out, they make all their noise from the woods, base doors open up, skeleton cyborg things come out, and then instead of running back into the woods, they decide to just have open warfare near the front of the base. Yeah, not a good idea. I mean, yeah, at least these guys were armed. Like, they had rifles and stuff, and they were able to... You know what? No, let me not hold you guys in suspense, okay? They all died. Every last one of those motherfuckers died. Every last one of them. That's how they died. And it was a really ridiculous system, too. Like, Dan was like, okay, you have this many guys, and the cyborgs, there's like, I think there was like 50 cyborgs that were sent out to take care of these people. Well, really androids. They weren't human. They were just these robotic skeleton things. It's like, there's no way in hell, you know, that these guys are going to stand a chance. That's why I said stay in the woods. But Dan was thinking, okay, I want this grand battle. And Paul was like, yeah, it's going to be cool. He came up and said, I'm not going to be rolling the dice and like going play by play for every single last, you know, robot versus every single last dude. So basically, it was like for every townsperson, they would flip a coin. And I think it was heads they killed a robot, tails they got killed. I know. You guys are probably laughing your asses off right now. But, yeah, every last one of them died. But to their credit, they killed almost all the robots. There was only one left. And by the time the battle was over, he's just walking around confused because everything is dead and destroyed and it's not getting any more instructions. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Like, it was just this funny scene. Like, just picture this one killer robot just walking around, just like, doesn't know what to do now. Everything's dead and there's no new commands. So it's just walking around aimlessly around this battlefield littered with broken robot parts and broken bodies. Meanwhile, me, Paul, and our squad were able to sneak into the base. Commando style. Just get in there, sneak in, like the Special Forces guys that we were. Get in there, find the communications area, started trying to hack it, trying to break down the signal, but that's when Kurtz and his guys came in. We were doing pretty well before that happened. Like, we went in, we were taking out certain guards, silently killing them, you know, sneaking past other, you know, and there was a lot of guys in that freaking base, and we're just like sneaking past them, mingling our way through, setting up sabotages, blowing up certain parts of the base, getting into the communications array, trying to bust the signal up, and then that's when Kurtz came in with his goons, like his special guard and whatever. It was a tough fight. Like, we almost got killed there. We lost a lot of our guys. There was only 4 of our men left by the time that battle was over. Paul's character was fucked up. Like, he was on the ground, like, you know, just shot up and shit. My character got wounded, but I actually got, you know, the jump on Kurtz. I was about to pull the trigger, and then a rift opened up. It seemed that apparently Kurtz was working on a way to start opening up rifts on his own, and we didn't know how he was able to figure this stuff out, which was supposed to be the main mystery of the story. Like, why did he go crazy? We were also bumping into some weird stuff. It wasn't just robots and general, like, troops turned traitor that we're going up against. We were going up against some weird supernatural forces as well, and we know that that's not what the Coalition does, so we were trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with Kurtz. And apparently he was able to get his hands on either some tech or some magic or whatever that was allowing him to start messing around with rifts. So this rift had opened up and we got sucked into it. When we got out of it, Kurtz was nowhere to be found, and we were suddenly in the middle of a prison camp. Yeah. I didn't make up the story, okay? This is just what happened. So we're thinking, okay, prison camp. Whatever. We're coalition. I'm sure they'll let us free. That's not what happened. No. They took one look at us and said that we were going to be that night's entertainment. Yeah, they weren't letting us out. We didn't know why they wouldn't let us out, but later on we found out it's because these guys were in league with Kurtz. Apparently this has been a plan that he had been hatching for quite some time. And Kurtz was nowhere to be found. So we screwed that up. The only thing that we were able to successfully do was bust up the jamming signal so we could get word back to headquarters about what happened. But now we're in a prison camp and we're fucked. The warden there decided that, yeah, he's not going to let us leave, but he wasn't going to straight up kill us either. Like I said, we were going to be their entertainment. We were going to have to prove ourselves by fighting some of the, you've heard the setup, fight the biggest goons in the prison camp. If you win, you get to live. If you lose, well, you die anyway. My character was barely able to make it. Paul's character lost both his hands. He had to headbutt his way to victory. I'm not making this up. This is how it went. But he was severely effed up. The four guys with us also made it through with varying degrees of, damage to themselves. So now we're permanently prisoners. And we're all thinking the same thing. How the fuck are we going to get out of here? By the way, this was another funny moment that happened. All our characters are like in different cells, but they were next to each other, so we're whispering to one another, like, okay, how the hell are we going to get out? And I told you, Paul's character got so messed up that he lost his hands. And now they're coming around with food. And Paul immediately, how the fuck am I supposed to eat with no goddamn hands? And I made a joke, I don't know, maybe they taped forks to your stumps or something. And Dan goes, yeah, that's a great idea. That's exactly what they did. When they threw you in there and they put two, freaking forks, taped them on. Yeah. Oh God, Paul was so pissed. He was like, he just imagined his character just trying to stab at the potatoes or whatever, and then just whacking them away and crying. So our characters were stuck there for several days. And we're all trying to figure out some way to get out, and little by little we learned more about the layout of the prison, who were the guards, what were the rounds. We started sending word out to many of the other prisoners that, look, we got a plan to get out of here. You can trust us. We used to be coalition. We're badasses. We'd already proven how well we could fight and stuff. So we had a couple of people who were going to help us to make an escape. The plan was a very basic plan. Wait until the right moment, start a prison riot. In the middle of the prison riot, we try to make our escape. A few of us will try. It almost works out perfectly. Almost. The prison riot got started. So far, so good. Us knocking out a few guards and slipping through the madness and the chaos. So far, so good. But then running into the wrong group of people and then Paul's character getting his ass kicked, that wasn't part of the plan. Having to shove him into some spare armor and drag him around saying, yo, quick, we need to take him to the infirmary. Yeah, that wasn't part of the plan, but it kind of helped. We are able to con our way to a nearby landing bay. There's a pilot already in there. We tell him, you need to get us out of here. He's so badly injured, the infirmary inside the prison is not good enough. You need to take us to a nearby coalition hospital. Pilot's like, fine. Takes off. And that's when the co-pilot turns around and goes, hey, those ID badges, we don't recognize those. Now, I don't know if I did a very good job of conveying the amount of stress that our characters had already gone through. We've already been dispatched to deal with what turned out to be a crazy military dude who had already completely wiped out a town that we barely escaped. We barely escaped getting through that blockade to get to the town in the first place. Then we barely escaped getting out of the town. We get trapped in a mountain somewhere. We're trying to figure out a way to get out of that. They come up with a dumbass plan which gets a whole lot of freaking townspeople killed. Again, I tried to go against that plan, but I got outvoted. We were almost able to end this thing, but then ended up getting caught in the rift, getting our asses kicked, and thrown into a prison camp where we then had to fight our way just to survive in this camp. And now that we're this close to getting away, now the pilot's like, hey, I don't recognize you guys. Yeah, not good. At this point, I had my character pull his gun out Because of course he was able to grab one when he's, grabbed, the coalition uniforms, the jail uniforms to get out. Took out a gun, pointed it right at the back of the pilot's head, and I was like, I'm done. I've had it. You're gonna get us out of here, or we all die. Dan immediately was about to call my bluff. I could tell. He was like, "Go, you're right," and he saw the look on my face, and he realized I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't kidding. I was like, Dan, I'm just telling you right now, as a player, not just as my character, I'm going to end the campaign right here if we don't get out of here. I am not kidding. I will pull this trigger. I am ready to roll the dice to pull this trigger and put a hole in the back of this pilot's head. We all crash. We all die. Dan just looked at me, nodded a little bit, looked back at his books and his dice. I could tell he was contemplating some way of turning this around, and then in his pilot's voice, "They don't pay me enough for this shit. Where do you guys really want to go?" That's how we got out the prison camp. He didn't take us to a coalition hospital, obviously, because that's not where we really wanted to go, but we had to go somewhere. So we ended up, and they brought us to some other town on the outskirts that was independent of the coalition, and we were able to get fixed up there. Now this is where I'm going to end this video. There's a whole second half now. Yes, there is a second half, where things go in a completely different and yet still crazy direction. So if you are interested in this story, if you like this little crazy RPG tale, because I've never really done this on this type of channel before, but it's something that I just as a fun thing I wanted to do. I've shared this with a lot of my friends, and all my friends tend to laugh at this story. They think it's very entertaining. And since I tend to, my old school way of doing videos is me talking to you as if you're in my house. So if I ever did invite you into my home, you'd hear this story sooner or later anyway. So that's why I'm telling it now. If you liked it, and I hope you did, just let me know. And like I said, the next video, which should be coming out about a day or two from now, from when this comes out, I'll finish the tale, and you'll get to hear how this campaign pretty much ended. I mean, it was supposed to go on further, but then we all kind of went our separate ways and had separate lives and stuff like that. So, anyway, yeah. Sorry it's kind of rambly, but that tends to be how stories are when you're relating them to people, right? Hope it was amusing to you guys, and I'll catch you later.